Professor BlackOps, Cybersecurity for the people. You see it, let's get it. Talk about a little bit about Oracle security. This is STIGs. Zero Trust Networking is a new hottest thing. So let's see where we would put the database and how that traffic will flow to that network. Zero knowledge is basically encrypted. Encryption managed, of course, blue team, because we're trying to lock down the Oracle database with all the good stuff in it. Credit cards, HIPAA information, hospital information, and all the great stuff is usually stored 95% actually in the database. So Oracle 12C is a high performance enterprise. According to Oracle, this is the first database designed for the cloud. Oracle Database 12C also introduces 500 new features to the database, most notably Pluggable Database and multi-tenant architecture. So the Pluggable Database, in there you have separations of duties, new audit framework, network encryption, strong authorization, pattern matching, native fetching, SQL things, identity column, temporal, PLSQL improvements, and much more. I've actually done Oracle Forms, Oracle Reports, probably. I used to work on the data warehouse team, so I'll probably be doing Oracle off and on probably for 20 years. It's my favorite database, to be honest. Okay, we're going to talk about NIST, National Institute for Standards and Technology, provided guidance across the federal government, and FISMA, which is the Federal Information Security Management Act, provides guidance for civilian agency. Department of Defense systems have yet another layer of requirements promulgated by the Defense Information System Agency, known as DISA. The federal IT pros within DoD must comply with the technical testing and hardening framework known as the acronym of STIGs, which is Security Technical Implementation Guideline. According to DISA, STIGs are the configuration standards for DoD information assurance, enabled devices and systems. STIG contains technical guidance to lock down information systems and software that might otherwise be vulnerable to malicious computer attacks. So once again, the STIG contains technical guidance to lock down information systems and software that might otherwise be vulnerable to malicious attacks. That's why I'm a STIG fan. Okay, there was 197 Oracle checks. We're only going to go actually over a few of them. There were 12 highs, 177 medium checks, and 8 low checks. On the first one, Oracle remote authorization parameter must be set to false. Setting this to true allows operating system authentication to be over secure connections. Oracle remote access operation roles parameter must be set to false. Setting remote roles to true allows operating system groups to control Oracle roles. Once again, the roles, I think I had that in it twice. Vulnerability 61.44.1. The Oracle listener must be configured to require administration authentication. The Oracle listener authentication helps prevent unauthorized administration of the Oracle listener. Unauthorized administration of the listener could lead to DDoS exploits. That's the thing what I like about the STIG is it tells you what you're locking down, then it gives you an explanation of what that check actually does. The HA 61.53.7 database operating accounts must be granted only to those host system privileges necessary for the administration of the DBMS. The requirement is intended to limit exposure due to operating forms within the privileged accounts or roles. The inclusion of roles is intended to address those situations where the access control policy, such as role-based access, is being implemented, and where a change to the role provides the same degree of assurance in charge of the access authorization, right? So basically, it's want you to actually have least privileges when you actually install the software. Oracle software must be evaluated and patched against newly found vulnerabilities, security faults. With software application operating systems are discovered daily, vendors will continue updating and patching their products to address newly discovered security vulnerability. So basically, you just need to keep your database up to date on patching. Oracle usually patches once a quarter unless there's a huge security vulnerability. So every quarter you need to be ready to patch and have your test teams ready to test. vulnerability 61541. DBMS default accounts must be signed a custom password. Password maximum lifetime is a maximum period of time, typically in days. User password may be in effect before a user is forced to change it. So a lot of times at a lot of the companies, they usually do 60 or 90 days and forces you to change your password, especially on those super privileges accounts. 618773. The DBMS software installation account must be restricted to authorized users. Dealing with change control issues, it should be noted any change to the hardware, software, or firmware components of information system or application can potentially have side effects on the overall security of the system. So that was it. I think I just did like 10 high security checks for the STIG. Of course, I think it was almost 200 checks. To let you know, if you put those full 200 checks on there, your system will be locked down. So let's look at the classic architecture, 3-tier, web tier, application tier, and a database tier. Of course, the Oracle database is going to be in the back tier. So hopefully if some hackers get through it, they have to go through 2 other tiers to get back there. So this is the zero trust architecture, same thing. You got multiple tiers. So here they got 4 tiers in the back. You got the Oracle database on the back line of defense. So 2 of those extra tiers that helps you control your network flow for zero trust architecture. If you go to my video homepage, I think I had 2 other videos digging down deep in the zero trust architecture. So that's kind of one of my new focuses. It's actually the government's focus. So I'm just trying to make sure I'm comfortable doing compliance on the zero trust network. Let's talk about some of the zero trust features of Oracle. So here, the Oracle database, how does it encrypt data, the application, PeopleSoft, Cybo, SAP, JD Edwards, or even Oracle application servers. You put clear text data in. You save it into the Oracle transparent data encryption data files. You look in there, the data will be encrypted once you save it into the database. And if you export that data to disk, backup exports, or offsite facilities, those actual tables will be encrypted. So if somebody actually stole your server, it would be extra hard for them to actually unencrypt those data files because the keys are stored on a separate part of the disk to unlock those data files. So that's one of the zero trust features of Oracle. And the best thing too is once you get a database, your disk are encrypted, your backups are encrypted. You actually export data out, or even if you do replication to an offsite, all that data is encrypted. So that's definitely a zero trust feature. So Oracle has column encryption or tablespace encryption. Either one of those will actually, from a compliance standpoint, it would actually secure your data, so it shows you the master key in both of those. Then the data dictionary has the key for column encryption. So just the credit card column itself is encrypted. You go over here, the data files get saved in the Oracle tablespace, so all the tables in that tablespace are encrypted. That's different. So you see the key for the tablespace. So any of those data files in that tablespace are encrypted. So both of those features, once again, help secure your data. One of the top security databases on the planet. So, then 2 is that was showing you data encrypted at rest. This shows you data encrypted in transit, strong authentication, network encryption. So as you go to your web server or app server, all the traffic is automatically encrypted. Data written to the disk is automatically encrypted also. Once again, it shows your data encrypted on your backup file. Right here, we're more concerned about data in transit coming from your Oracle Advanced Security. So your web forms or your, they call them Apex forms. Over that traffic going to your actual, I guess will be web logic, all that traffic will be encrypted. So, right, so as compliance and security, all data in transit and at rest should be encrypted. So Oracle checks the box on all of those features. One of the features it has is for control for privileged accounts. Privileged database accounts are one of the most commonly used pathway to gain access to sensitive information. Oracle has a feature where the DBAs, even though they control everything in the database, they won't be able to select from the tables if you put this feature on. So the DBAs as a super privilege because really they don't really work with the data. They actually worry about setting your data up, setting your features up, setting everything up for you. So that's what it is. So that's a great feature. So it keeps your DBAs, if their account gets hacked, they actually can't get in there and exfiltrate data to outside. You would actually have to get a developer account or a high-end user account. So most people think if you get the DBA's account, you can have the keys to the kingdom. Like I said, so Oracle actually put a feature in to block that. So the standard database security is user role, application roles, and application privileges. Or database accounts are one most commonly used pathway for gaining access to sensitive application for data in the database. So each one of these users will have we call them a job role. So it kind of tells you what rights and what table and what information you need to do your job. So the account clerk role, manager role, the receivable clerk, right? It tells you what table, what data you can get to into the database. In the accounts payable role, sometimes you can nest role. So the payroll clerk and the manager role will be part of accounts payable. The manager role and the clerk receivable would just be for accounts receivable. And those roles down here tells you what programs and application you need to run to be able to do your job. Right? So if a hacker just got the receiver clerk role, that might not be enough to get to the check accounts for your company, right? Depending on what access you get. So that's why you have multiple roles, multiple access features, and Oracle does a great job of. Then you get the granularity of the access rights you need to do to protect your data. So to some degree, do some AWS work. I would actually spin up Amazon in the cloud, so AWS would do all the management features of it. Set up, operate, and scale an Oracle database in the cloud with just a few clicks. So when you click that button, it's going to spin up the database, spin up how big the database you want, what tables you want, encryption of Tablespace. So Oracle will take care of all that management features for you. So the only thing you would really have to focus on would be your coding of your architecture and the VPC of networking, how you want networking to be controlled to get to that Oracle database. So the 12C in Oracle, fully managed, availability and reliability, ease of migration, fast and predictable performance, licensing flexibility, and multiple availability zones. So you can have your master database in Chicago, but you can back it up to California. For some reason, if your Chicago data center goes down, it would automatically fail over to another data center that you make available. So that's the beauty of Oracle. You can do disaster recovery from different parts of the country. So in case it gets hit by an earthquake or a fire or something happens, you can go to other data centers that Amazon control to actually keep your operation functioning. So that was it. I want to do something super quick. So I'm gonna put a lot of the STIGs actually in the description so you can see those checks. And once again, in July, I'm gonna spin up an Amazon test bed and set all this stuff up in real life so we can actually see how it would actually set up, see the performance, see zero trust networking and micro segmentation in the cloud. Once again, a super quick hit. If you got any questions, just put them in the comment section. I try to answer all comments. Once again, ProfessorBlackOps, cybersecurity for the people. A happy Friday.